The grand palace of Lyra stood as a beacon of power and opulence, its spires piercing the violet skies of the capital planet. Inside its marble halls, adorned with intricate mosaics depicting the empire's conquests, a storm was brewing. Prince Tyron, the empire's heir, was a man of imposing presence. His sharp features and piercing blue eyes conveyed both intelligence and ruthlessness. He stood by the grand window, overlooking the bustling metropolis below, his mind already calculating the next move in his quest for absolute power. Behind him, a council of advisors murmured in hushed tones. They were discussing the upcoming alliance with the planet Eloria, a smaller yet strategically crucial world rich in resources. The linchpin of this alliance was a marriage between Tyron and Elara, Eloria's beloved princess. Elara, with her striking auburn hair and emerald eyes, was known throughout the galaxy not just for her beauty but for her wisdom and compassion. She was the heart of Eloria, a planet that had prospered under her family's rule. But now, she was to be a pawn in Tyron's grand scheme, a role she accepted with heavy reluctance. "Everything is set for the engagement announcement," one of the advisors spoke, pulling Tyron from his thoughts. "Princess Elara will arrive tomorrow." Tyron nodded, his expression unreadable. "Ensure that the preparations are flawless. This alliance is pivotal to our plans." Meanwhile, on Eloria, Elara stood on the balcony of her family's palace, looking out at the lush forests and rivers that made her home so unique. Her heart ached at the thought of leaving, of becoming a mere instrument in a political game. Her thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of her father, King Alaric. "Elara," he said gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I know this is not what you wished for, but our people need this alliance. Tyron's empire is vast and powerful. With their support, we can secure our future." Elara nodded, her resolve hardening. "I will do what is necessary for our people, father, but I will not lose myself in the process." In the shadows of Eloria's palace, Mark, a seasoned military officer, received his orders. He was to accompany Elara to Lyra as her protector. Mark had served the royal family loyally for years, and the assignment was a great honor. Yet, as he prepared for the journey, he couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would be unlike any other. The next day, as Elara's ship ascended into the stars, she cast one last look at her home. Beside her, Mark stood vigilant, ready to defend her against any threat. Little did they know, the journey ahead would test their courage, their loyalty, and their very souls. In the glittering halls of Lyra, the stage was set for a galactic drama that would reshape the destiny of the stars. The grand hall of the Imperial Palace glittered with opulence, a testament to the galaxy-spanning wealth of Prince Tyron's family. Chandeliers hung like crystalline galaxies themselves, casting a sparkling glow over the assembly of nobles, military leaders, and dignitaries. The air buzzed with conversations, the delicate clinking of glasses, and the underlying hum of political maneuvering. Elara stood at the edge of the crowd, her elegant gown flowing around her like liquid starlight. The fabric, a shimmering blue, seemed almost to ripple with her every movement, a stark contrast to the turmoil within her heart. She scanned the room, her eyes sharp and intelligent, taking in the faces around her. She was the epitome of grace and composure, but beneath her serene exterior, she was a storm of conflicting emotions. Elara was the daughter of a prominent political family from the planet Amara, known for its strategic location and valuable resources. Her marriage to Prince Tyron had been arranged since her childhood, a move designed to solidify an alliance that would fortify Tyron's ambitions of galactic dominance. This union was not one of love, but of necessity, a calculated decision made by those in power. "Your Highness," a voice interrupted her thoughts. Elara turned to see General Voran, a towering figure in the Empire's military, his expression one of calculated respect. "It is an honor to see you here. The alliance between our worlds is of utmost importance to the stability of the galaxy." Elara forced a smile, the kind that never reached her eyes. "Of course, General. Stability is always the goal," she replied, her voice even and controlled. As General Voran walked away, Elara felt a presence at her side. She turned to see Mark, her protector, a man whose rugged appearance and sharp gaze contrasted sharply with the polished nobility around them. Mark had been assigned to her a few months prior, and in that time he had proven to be both vigilant and enigmatic. "Elara," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Are you all right?" Elara appreciated the rare moments of honesty they could share, away from the prying eyes of the court. "As well as can be expected, Mark," she replied, her tone laced with the weariness of her situation. "This alliance may bring stability, but it feels more like a cage with every passing day." Mark's eyes softened with understanding. "I'll be here, watching over you. You're not alone in this." Before she could respond, a hush fell over the hall. All eyes turned towards the grand staircase where Prince Tyran stood, his presence commanding and formidable. His dark hair was neatly combed, and his attire was a rich, deep red, symbolizing both power and danger. He descended the stairs with a confident stride, his eyes never leaving Elara's. "Elara," he greeted, taking her hand and kissing it with a flourish. "You look radiant tonight." "Thank you, Tyran," Elara replied, her voice steady despite the unease that prickled at the back of her mind. Tyran turned to address the gathered crowd, his voice resonating through the hall. "Tonight we celebrate not just a union between two individuals, but the joining of two great worlds. Together we will bring an era of peace and prosperity to the galaxy." The crowd erupted in applause, but Elara felt no joy in the words. She glanced at Mark, whose eyes mirrored her own unease. The political alliance was a facade, a veneer of unity masking the underlying currents of ambition and control. As the night wore on, Elara found herself mingling with guests, each conversation a delicate dance of diplomacy. Yet amidst the politeness, she sensed the underlying tension. The galaxy was a vast and unpredictable place, and alliances such as this one were built on fragile foundations. Later, as the festivities began to wind down, Elara slipped away to a secluded balcony. She breathed in the cool night air, the stars twinkling above like distant beacons of hope. She felt a presence beside her and turned to see Mark, his expression one of quiet concern. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he said softly, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "I needed a moment," Elara replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "To think, to breathe. This life, it's not what I wanted, Mark. It's a gilded cage, and I fear the doors are closing in." Mark stepped closer, his presence a comforting anchor in the storm of her thoughts. "We'll find a way through this, Elara. I promise you that." Elara looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Thank you, Mark, for everything." As they stood together under the vast expanse of the galaxy, Elara felt a spark of determination ignite within her. The path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but with Mark by her side, she felt a glimmer of hope. The political alliance might have bound her by duty, but her spirit remained unyielded. And somewhere beneath the layers of duty and obligation, she sensed the beginnings of a bond that could defy even the most formidable of empires. The future was uncertain, but Elara knew one thing: she would not face it alone. And with that thought, she turned back to the glittering hall, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The morning after the engagement ceremony, the palace of Lyra seemed to buzz with an undercurrent of tension. Elara could sense it in the air, a feeling of unease that made her skin prickle. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Mark, ever the diligent protector, had taken to patrolling the palace grounds with a heightened sense of vigilance. He had noticed subtle changes in the behavior of some of the palace staff and guards. Whispers in dark corners, furtive glances, and hushed conversations all pointed to a hidden threat. One evening, as Mark was making his rounds, he stumbled upon a secret meeting in one of the lesser-used corridors of the palace. He hid in the shadows, listening intently to the conversation. "We must act quickly," a voice whispered urgently. "Tyran's plan is already in motion. The princess must not escape." Mark's heart pounded in his chest. He recognized the voice as belonging to Captain Darius, one of his trusted colleagues. The revelation hit him like a blow. Betrayal was festering within the very ranks sworn to protect the Empire. Carefully, Mark retreated from his hiding spot and made his way back to Elara's quarters. He needed to warn her and devise a plan to counter this new threat. As he approached her door, he noticed it was slightly ajar. His instincts screamed danger. He pushed the door open and found Elara sitting by the window, her expression troubled. She turned to face him as he entered, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and concern. "Mark, what's wrong?" she asked, sensing his agitation. "We have a problem," he said, his voice low and urgent. "There's a plot to kidnap you, orchestrated by Captain Darius. He's been bought off by Tyron." Alara's eyes widened in shock. "Are you certain?" Mark nodded. "I overheard them talking. We need to act quickly and come up with a plan to ensure your safety." Alara took a deep breath, her mind racing. "We can't confront them directly. We don't know how deep this conspiracy goes. We need to find allies we can trust." Mark agreed. "I have a few trusted contacts within the military who might be able to help us. But we need to be careful. Tyron's reach is vast and his influence is strong." The days that followed were a blur of clandestine meetings and secret plans. Alara and Mark worked tirelessly to identify those they could trust and devise a strategy to counter the imminent threat. They knew they were walking a dangerous tightrope, but they were determined to succeed. One night, as they were finalizing their plans, Alara looked at Mark with a mixture of gratitude and determination. "Thank you for believing in me, Mark. I don't know what I would do without you." Mark's expression softened. "You don't have to thank me, Alara. I'm just doing my duty. And besides, I believe in your cause. You're fighting for something greater than yourself." In that moment, a bond of trust and friendship was forged between them, one that would prove unbreakable in the trials to come. As they prepared to put their plan into action, Alara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer a passive participant in her own fate. She was ready to fight for her freedom, her people, and her future. And with Mark by her side, she knew they had a chance to succeed. The night of the escape arrived, cloaked in shadows and uncertainty. Alara and Mark moved through the palace with a mix of caution and determination. Every step was calculated, every move deliberate. The palace, once a symbol of opulence and power, now felt like a labyrinth of danger. Their first objective was to reach the underground network that Mark had discovered during his patrols. These hidden tunnels, used for centuries by the royal family in times of crisis, would be their best chance to evade capture. The entrance to the tunnels was located in a secluded part of the palace gardens, concealed by thick foliage and ancient stonework. As they made their way through the dimly lit corridors, Alara couldn't help but feel a pang of fear. The palace seemed eerily silent, as if holding its breath in anticipation of their escape. Mark's presence beside her was a constant reassurance, his unwavering resolve bolstering her own courage. They reached the garden without incident, the cool night air a stark contrast to the tension that gripped them. Mark carefully moved aside the heavy vines that concealed the entrance to the tunnels. The ancient stone door creaked open, revealing a dark passageway that seemed to stretch into the abyss. "Are you ready?" Mark asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Alara nodded, her heart pounding. "Let's go." They stepped into the darkness, the stone door closing behind them with a soft thud. The air inside the tunnel was cool and damp, the faint scent of earth and moss filling their senses. Mark lit a small, portable lantern, casting a soft glow that illuminated their path. The tunnel seemed to stretch on forever, its twists and turns disorienting. But Mark moved with confidence, his extensive knowledge of the palace guiding them through the maze. Alara followed closely, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. As they neared the exit of the tunnel, they heard voices echoing through the passageway. Mark quickly extinguished the lantern, plunging them into darkness. They pressed themselves against the damp walls, holding their breath as the voices grew louder. "We need to find them before they reach the city," a voice said, frustration evident in its tone. "Tyron will have our heads if we fail." Mark recognized the voice as belonging to one of Darius's accomplices. The realization sent a chill down his spine. They were closer than he had anticipated. The voices faded as the search party moved further down the tunnel, unaware of how close they had come to their quarry. Mark relit the lantern, and they continued their journey, their pace quickening as they neared the exit. Finally, they emerged into the night air, the tunnel opening into a dense forest on the outskirts of the city. The city lights glimmered in the distance, a stark contrast to the darkness that surrounded them. "We made it," Alara said, relief evident in her voice. What's our next move? Mark had already thought ahead. We need to reach the spaceport and secure a ship. I have contacts there who can help us. From there, we can make our way to one of the rebel bases. Alara nodded, her resolve strengthening. Lead the way. They moved through the forest with a sense of urgency, the distant sounds of the city guiding their path. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig set their nerves on edge, but they pressed on, driven by the need to escape Tyron's clutches. As they neared the spaceport, they encountered their first real obstacle. A patrol of Tyron soldiers blocked their path, their watchful eyes scanning the area. Mark quickly assessed the situation, formulating a plan to bypass the patrol without being detected. "Stay close to me," he whispered to Alara. "We'll move through the shadows and avoid direct confrontation." They navigated the outskirts of the spaceport, using the cover of darkness to their advantage. Mark's training and experience proved invaluable as they slipped past the patrol, their presence undetected. Finally, they reached the shipyard, where Mark's contact, a seasoned pilot named Joran, awaited them. Joran was a grizzled veteran with a no-nonsense demeanor, but his loyalty to the cause was unwavering. "Mark," Alara Joran greeted them with a nod. "I've got a ship ready for you. We need to move fast." They boarded the ship, a sleek vessel designed for speed and stealth. As the engines roared to life, Alara felt a surge of hope. They were one step closer to freedom, one step closer to reclaiming their destiny. The ship lifted off, ascending into the night sky. As they left Lyra behind, Alara looked out at the stars, her heart filled with determination. She knew the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she was ready to face them head-on. With Mark by her side and a newfound sense of purpose, Alara was ready to defy the tyranny that sought to control her. The fight for her freedom had only just begun. The escape from Lyra had been a success, but their journey was far from over. As Joran piloted the ship through the galaxy, Alara and Mark took a moment to catch their breath and plan their next move. "We need to reach the rebel base on Ashura," Mark said, studying a holographic star map. "It's a remote planet, but it's a stronghold for those who oppose Tyron's regime." Alara nodded, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. "What can we expect when we get there?" Mark's expression grew serious. "Ashura is a harsh world, but it's well defended. The rebels there are seasoned fighters, and they've been preparing for a confrontation with Tyron's forces for years." As they discussed their plans, the ship's sensors suddenly blared a warning. Joran's hands flew over the controls, his expression grim. "We've got company," he said, his voice tense. "Tyron's ships are closing in fast." Before they could react, the ship was rocked by a series of explosions. The enemy had found them, and they were vastly outnumbered. Joran's skillful piloting kept them in the fight, but it was clear they couldn't hold out for long. "We're going down," Joran shouted as the ship took another hit. "Brace yourselves." The ship spiraled out of control, plummeting toward a nearby planet. Alara and Mark held on tightly, their hearts pounding as the ground rushed up to meet them. With a deafening crash, the ship hit the surface, skidding to a halt in a cloud of dust and debris. As the dust settled, Alara and Mark emerged from the wreckage, shaken but alive. The landscape around them was alien and unfamiliar, a barren wasteland of jagged rocks and twisted vegetation. The sky was a sickly yellow, casting an eerie glow over the desolate terrain. "Where are we?" Alara asked, her voice filled with awe and trepidation. Joran checked the ship's navigation systems, which were still partially functional. "We're on the planet Jarus. It's a remote and uncharted world, far from the main trade routes." Mark surveyed their surroundings, his mind already working on a plan. "We need to find shelter and supplies. We can't stay out in the open for long." They salvaged what they could from the wrecked ship, gathering essential supplies and equipment. With Joran's guidance, they set out into the unknown, searching for a place to regroup and plan their next move. As they traversed the harsh landscape, they encountered strange and dangerous creatures native to Jarus. Their survival skills were put to the test as they battled the elements and the planet's wildlife. Despite the challenges, Alara and Mark's bond grew stronger, forged in the crucible of adversity. One night, as they huddled around a makeshift fire, Alara looked at Mark with a mixture of gratitude and determination. "We've been through so much already, but I believe we can make it. We just need to keep moving forward." Mark nodded, his expression resolute. "We'll find a way off this planet and reach Ashura. Tyran won't stop us." Their journey across Saharas was a grueling ordeal, but they eventually stumbled upon an ancient ruin that offered some semblance of shelter. The structure was a relic of a long-forgotten civilization, its walls adorned with strange symbols and carvings. Inside the ruin, they found remnants of advanced technology, which Joran managed to activate. Among the discoveries was a beacon, which they hoped could signal any friendly ships in the vicinity. As days turned into weeks, their hope began to wane. But just when they were about to give up, their beacon finally received a response. A small rebel scout ship, patrolling the outer fringes of the galaxy, had picked up their signal. The scout ship landed nearby, and its crew, led by a fierce rebel leader named Kira, helped Alara, Mark, and Joran off Saras. Kira was impressed by their resilience and determination, and she welcomed them into the fold. "We've heard of your plight," Princess Alara Kira said as they boarded the scout ship. "Your courage has inspired many. We'll get you to Ashura, and together we'll fight against Tyran's tyranny." Alara felt a surge of hope. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but with the rebels' support, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the scout ship ascended into the stars, leaving the desolate world of Zaris behind, Alara looked out at the galaxy with renewed determination. The fight for freedom and justice was far from over, but she was no longer alone. With Mark and the rebels by her side, she was ready to take on Tyran and reclaim her destiny. The journey to Ashura was fraught with tension and anticipation. As Alara, Mark, Joran, and their new ally Kira approached the rebel stronghold, they were met with a sight that filled them with awe and hope. Ashura was a rugged, mountainous planet, its surface dotted with hidden bases and fortresses, each a testament to the rebels' determination and resilience. Kira led them to the main base, a sprawling complex built into the side of a massive cliff. The base buzzed with activity, filled with soldiers, engineers, and strategists, all working toward the common goal of toppling Tyran's regime. Alara and Mark were taken to a meeting with the rebel leaders, a group of seasoned veterans and passionate fighters who had dedicated their lives to the cause. Among them was General Eric, a formidable warrior with a reputation for brilliant tactics and unwavering loyalty. Princess Alara, Captain Mark, General Eric greeted them with a nod. "Your arrival has given us new hope. We have much to discuss." The meeting was intense and revealing. Alara learned that her arranged marriage to Tyran had been part of a larger, more sinister plot. Tyran sought to consolidate his power by controlling Eloria's vast resources, and the marriage was a means to that end. But there was more at stake than just political power. "The Empire has been developing a new weapon," General Eric explained, showing them holographic images of a massive, planet-destroying superweapon. If Tyran gains control of Eloria, he will have the resources to complete this weapon and use it to crush any resistance. Alara felt a chill run down her spine. The stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. Her marriage to Tyran was not just a personal sacrifice, it was a key part of a plan to dominate the entire galaxy. "We must stop him," Alara said, her voice filled with determination. "We cannot allow this weapon to be completed." General Eric nodded. "We've been gathering intelligence and preparing for a strike. With your help, we can turn the tide." Over the next few weeks, Alara and Mark worked closely with the rebels, sharing their knowledge and experience. Alara's strategic insights and Mark's military expertise proved invaluable as they planned a series of daring missions to disrupt Tyran's operations and gather more information about the superweapon. During this time, Alara and Mark's bond deepened. They spent long hours together, discussing strategies, sharing their fears and hopes, and growing closer with each passing day. Despite the constant danger and uncertainty, a sense of camaraderie and mutual respect flourished between them. One night, as they were reviewing plans in the command center, Alara looked at Mark, her eyes reflecting the weight of their mission. "Mark, I don't know what the future holds, but I want you to know that I trust you completely. You've been my rock through all of this." Mark's expression softened, and he reached out to take her hand. "Alara, it's been an honor to stand by your side. No matter what happens, we'll face it together." Their moment of quiet resolve was interrupted by an urgent message from Kira. "We've received intelligence about a critical supply convoy heading to Tyron's main base. If we can intercept it, we'll gain valuable resources and disrupt their operations." Alara and Mark quickly sprang into action, joining Kira and a team of elite fighters for the mission. The convoy was heavily guarded, but their meticulous planning and coordination paid off. The rebels ambushed the convoy, capturing vital supplies and gathering crucial information about Tyron's defenses. As they returned to Ashura, triumphant and energized, Alara felt a renewed sense of purpose. Each victory, no matter how small, brought them closer to their ultimate goal. Back at the base, General Eric reviewed the captured data and shared a grim revelation. According to these documents, Tyron is accelerating the construction of the superweapon. We have a limited window to act before it's operational. Alara's resolve hardened. Then we must act swiftly. We cannot afford to wait. With the clock ticking, the rebels intensified their efforts. They launched a series of coordinated strikes against Tyron's forces, targeting key installations and supply lines. Each mission was a step closer to their ultimate goal, the destruction of the superweapon and the liberation of the galaxy. Amid the chaos and conflict, Alara and Mark found moments of solace and connection. Their shared experiences and growing affection provided a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. As the final battle loomed on the horizon, Alara knew that their journey had brought them to a crucial turning point. The fight for freedom and justice was about to reach its climax, and the outcome would determine the fate of countless lives. With Mark and the rebels by her side, Alara was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The struggle against tyranny had become her mission, her purpose, and her destiny. The time had come for the final confrontation. The rebel forces, now bolstered by new allies and resources, were ready to strike at the heart of Tyron's empire. The plan was daring and complex, requiring precise coordination and unwavering courage. General Eric gathered the leaders in the command center, where a holographic display of Tyron's main base, located on the heavily fortified planet of Valoria, hovered above the table. The base was protected by an intricate network of defenses, but the rebels had identified a weakness. "Our primary objective is to destroy the superweapon before it becomes operational," General Eric explained. "We've identified a weak point in their defenses here, at the power core. A successful strike will trigger a chain reaction, taking out the entire facility." Alara studied the holographic display, her mind racing with possibilities. "We'll need to divide our forces. One team will create a diversion, drawing their attention away from the power core. The other team will infiltrate the base and plant the charges." Mark nodded, his expression determined. "I'll lead the infiltration team. Alara, you'll coordinate the diversion. We need to ensure that both teams succeed for this plan to work." As they finalized their strategy, the atmosphere was charged with a mixture of anticipation and tension. The stakes had never been higher, and the outcome of this battle would shape the future of the galaxy. The rebel fleet, a motley assortment of ships ranging from sleek fighters to heavily armed cruisers, assembled in orbit around Ashura. Alara, now a seasoned leader, addressed the gathered forces. "Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for all those who have suffered under Tyron's tyranny. We fight for freedom, for justice, and for the future of our galaxy. Together we can achieve the impossible." A chorus of cheers and shouts of determination echoed through the fleet. The rebels were ready to give everything for their cause. The journey to Valoria was fraught with danger. Tyron's forces were on high alert, and the rebels encountered fierce resistance as they approached the heavily guarded planet. But their resolve was unshakable. As the fleet emerged from hyperspace, the battle began in earnest. Explosions lit up the sky as ships engaged in a deadly dance of fire and maneuver. Alara, aboard the command ship, directed the diversionary forces with precision, drawing Tyron's attention away from the infiltration team. Mark and his team, including Kira and a squad of elite soldiers, landed on the surface of Valoria under the cover of the diversion. They moved swiftly and silently, navigating the labyrinthine corridors of the base. Every step was fraught with peril, but their training and determination kept them focused. As they neared the power core, they encountered heavy resistance. Tyron's elite guards, aware of the critical nature of the installation, fought with ferocity. Mark and his team engaged in a fierce battle, their skills and teamwork put to the ultimate test. Back in the command ship, Alara monitored the progress of both teams. The tension was palpable as she relayed orders and coordinated the diversion. Every decision carried the weight of countless lives. "We're nearing the power core," Mark's voice crackled over the comms. "But we've encountered heavy resistance. We need more time." Alara's heart raced. Time was running out, and the fate of the mission hung in the balance. "Hold the line, Mark. We're sending reinforcements." She directed a squadron of fighters to provide air support, their strafing runs giving Mark's team the cover they needed to push forward. The battle intensified, each moment a harrowing test of courage and resolve. Finally, Mark and his team reached the power core. The massive, pulsing machinery loomed before them, a testament to Tyron's ambition and hubris. Kira and the demolition experts quickly set the charges, their movements precise and methodical. As the last charge was set, Mark's voice came over the comms, filled with determination. "Charges are in place. We're getting out of here." The team began their retreat, fighting their way back through the base. Explosions rocked the facility as the charges detonated, triggering a catastrophic chain reaction. The power core's destruction sent shockwaves through the base, causing it to collapse in on itself. Back in the command ship, Alara watched as the holographic display showed the destruction of Tyron's main base. A sense of triumph and relief washed over her. They had done it. The superweapon was destroyed. But their victory was not without cost. As the base crumbled, Mark and his team found themselves trapped in the wreckage. Their path to the extraction point was blocked, and time was running out. "Mark, do you copy?" Alara's voice was filled with urgency. "We're sending a rescue team. Hold on." Mark's voice came through, strained but resolute. "Alara, we might not make it, but know that we fought for something greater than ourselves. We did what we had to do." Tears filled Alara's eyes as she listened. "Mark, don't give up. We're coming for you." As the rebel forces rallied for a desperate rescue mission, Alara's heart ached with the fear of losing those she had come to care for so deeply. The battle had been won, but the cost of victory weighed heavily on her soul. The rescue mission was a race against time. Rebel ships descended on the crumbling remains of Tyron's base, their crews determined to save their comrades. Alara, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and dread, coordinated the efforts from the command ship. Mark and his team, trapped in the collapsing structure, fought to stay alive. The air was thick with dust and smoke, the sound of falling debris echoing around them. Despite the dire circumstances, they maintained their resolve, knowing that their mission had dealt a significant blow to Tyron's regime. Rescue teams braved the perilous conditions, navigating through the wreckage to reach the trapped soldiers. With every passing moment, the situation grew more desperate, but the rebels' determination and teamwork shone through, and one by one, they pulled their comrades from the rubble. Alara's heart soared with relief when she received the news that Mark and his team had been found. As they were brought aboard the rescue ships, the sense of triumph and camaraderie was palpable. Back on Ashura, the mood was one of celebration and reflection. The destruction of the superweapon marked a turning point in the fight against Tyron's tyranny. The galaxy had been given a chance to heal and rebuild. Alara stood on a balcony overlooking the rebel base, her thoughts a whirlwind of emotions. The battle had been won, but the journey was far from over. She knew that the galaxy would need strong and compassionate leaders to guide it through the challenges ahead. Mark joined her on the balcony, his presence a comforting reminder of their shared struggles and victories. "We did it, Alara. The superweapon is destroyed, and Tyron's power is broken." Alara nodded, her eyes reflecting a mixture of determination and hope. "Yes, but our work is just beginning. We need to rebuild, to create a future where such tyranny can never rise again." Mark's gaze was filled with admiration. "I believe in you, Alara. You've shown incredible strength and leadership. The galaxy is fortunate to have you." Alara smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. And I couldn't have done it without you, Mark. You've been my rock, my protector, and my friend. Together, we've achieved something incredible." As they stood side by side, looking out at the stars, Alara felt a sense of peace and purpose. The bonds forged in the crucible of conflict would guide them as they worked to build a new, brighter future. In the days that followed, the rebel forces consolidated their victory, securing key planets and dismantling the remnants of Tyron's regime. Alara took on a central role in the new leadership, advocating for peace, justice, and the rights of all beings in the galaxy. Mark, now a hero celebrated for his bravery and loyalty, continued to serve as a protector and advisor. His relationship with Alara deepened, blossoming into a love that had been forged in the fires of adversity. The galaxy began to heal, and as new alliances were formed and old wounds mended, Alara and Mark's vision of a just and harmonious future slowly became a reality. In time, their story became a legend, a tale of courage, friendship, and the unyielding spirit of those who dared to fight for what was right. Alara's name became synonymous with hope and resilience, a beacon of light in the vast expanse of the galaxy. And as they looked to the stars, they knew that their journey, though filled with challenges, had been worth every sacrifice. For in the end, they had not just secured their own freedom, but had inspired a galaxy to dream of a better, brighter future. Thus, the tale of Alara, Mark, and the Galactic Rebellion became a testament to the enduring power of hope, courage, and the unwavering belief in the possibility of a better tomorrow.